This is going to be a little confusing at first, but I promise I will make it make sense. Two separate protesters in San Francisco were both charged with assaulting Homeland Security officers and slashing their tires' vehicles. And they both have the same last name, they're not related, and they were both wearing headscarves. The media did not do a great job of clarifying who's who and what exactly happened, so we will be covering this and talking about how Homeland Security officers are now facing knife-wielding protesters and tires are being slashed. We're gonna cover all of this. Now, before we start the video, make sure to please like the video. It's the #1 way you guys are helping this channel, but it also helps others see the videos as well, and people need to see what's going on in San Francisco right now. So this is a perfect example of how an American citizen can still be arrested by Homeland Security. Now, Adrien Guerrero was arrested by Homeland because he was threatening to attack Homeland Security officers with a knife. He was also reported of slashing Homeland Security officers' tires. He was also wearing the headscarf. Homeland Security threw that in the report as well. But the point I'm trying to make is Adrien was arrested because of the threats he was making towards the Homeland Security officers, and he was caught with a knife on him. So you can see, yes, you do have the right to protest Homeland Security, but when you cross that line of threatening and having intentions behind it, you will be arrested even as an American citizen.
Stop that! I have the right to document police activity!
Hey, you can document from right there, right there.
I have the right to see what's here, and I know the law. You don't know the law. You know the law. I have a right to see it.
Okay, so this video is a completely different event, completely different protester, with the same last name of Guerrero. They both were wearing headscarves, and they both had knives on them, according to Homeland Security. So we are now going to dig into this.
We want to tell you about a U.S. citizen who was detained while protesting outside one of the immigration buildings in San Francisco.
Yeah, the protester was released earlier today, but now questions about the legality of this detention are beginning to come out.
Yes, Amanda, this detention took place outside of San Francisco's 630 Sansom Street's immigration building, where small groups of protesters have been organizing for months, rallying against ICE detentions of undocumented immigrants.
Okay, so we happen to have the raw footage of why the protester was being arrested. And again, remember, Homeland Security is saying they were being obstructed, they were being surrounded, they were being threatened, which is why they used pepper spray, which is why the protester was eventually arrested.
This is ICE. They just took someone right now. They're going to take more of your community members.
Occupying your city. These are federal agents occupying your city.
These are federal agents occupying your city.
Okay, right off the bat, you can actually see in the background here, this guy has his arm up in the air. That is probably the #1 way. When agents are backing up, you are starting to surround them and you put your hands and arms up in the air. This can be determined as a threat. But you also need to remember, in this area, Homeland Security is reporting, these protesters were obstructing vehicles moving in and out or disrupting Homeland Security operations.
Occupying your city. These are federal agents occupying your city.
And again, the first guy was pepper sprayed, and these guys never backed away. They're still way too close. And I'm trying to go into detail for you guys because you'll see in the local news report, they leave all of this out.
Your city. These are federal agents occupying your city.
And by the way, since San Francisco is a sanctuary city, the local police, they're not there to try and calm the situation down. This is pretty much up to federal agents to do whatever they have to do to stop these protesters, which is why we keep seeing events like this in sanctuary cities.
Pepper spraying civilians on the street.
Okay, so these agents back up, they deployed their pepper spray, and now the protesters, they keep coming closer.
Shame! 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 Shame!
I know when I can help you take it off, but I can help you. Back up! Back up! Hands up! Back up! Back up!
Take the right to document! Get your hands
federal arrest. Step back.
I have a right to document police activity.
You can document from right there. Right there.
I have the right.
Okay, so this is very crucial. You absolutely do have the right to document what's going on. If your friend is being arrested and you are a protester, you can document. But when it comes to federal policies and law, there's like an arbitrary bubble you can't be in the middle of an arrest. It's one thing to stand like 30 feet back and film, but you cannot be inside of the arrest or involved within this bubble. That's where you can get arrested, and that's why they keep saying, back up, you'll be arrested.
I know the law. You don't know the law. You know the law. I have a right to see it.
Shame on you. Shame. 1, 2, 3.
And again, this protester has a headscarf. The last name Guerrero was arrested right down the road from the other arrest. And the media, some media outlets actually got the stories confused. In fact, it took me like an hour and a half to make sure I really had the facts straight. But I also want to mention, he was caught with a knife on him. So when you're making threats, you're getting in the way, and you have a knife on yourself, this is why federal agents are going to take it to the extreme and arrest you. But look how the local news reported this.
We want to tell you about a U.S. citizen who was detained while protesting outside one of the immigration buildings in San Francisco.
Yeah, the protester was released earlier today, but now questions about the legality of this detention are beginning to come out.
ABC 7 News reporter Luz Pena spoke to her. She's like,
So again, I do just want to point out, when you hear the headline saying, protester, American citizen protester was arrested outside of a detention facility, that really raises eyebrows. And a lot of times you never get the full context as to what exactly happened, which is why I wanted to show you guys the raw footage and check all of this out.
live in the newsroom with what she told her. Luz.
Yes, Emma and Dan, this detention took place outside of San Francisco's 630 Sansom Street's immigration building, where small groups of protesters have been organizing for months, rallying against ICE detentions of undocumented immigrants.
They did leave a part out. It doesn't really matter if you're a big size protest or a little size protest. There have been a lot of videos and clips of a handful of people really causing a disruption and getting in the way of Homeland Security officers. Maybe that's for a different video at a different time, but I'm just trying to point that out.
After 24 hours in custody, San Francisco resident Angelica Guerrero was released. An emotional moment for her family and community advocates.
Without a phone call, without being able to contact a lawyer, anything, they could have shipped me to Louisiana. Nobody would have even known about it.
Angelica is a transgender woman. She described confusion among federal agents after her arrest. She was transferred to multiple facilities around the Bay.
They took you from 630 Sansom to Santa Rita.
And those holding cells in Santa Rita jail are barbaric. Santa Rita jail has been prosecuted many times for their subhuman and miserable conditions. The walls where I was meant to sleep were covered in feces and blood.
These images from a video posted on many websites show the moment a federal agent turned and tackled Angelica and arrested her while she was protesting with a small group outside an immigration building in the city.
Again, remember, we saw the raw footage, and whether or not it's a small protest, a lot of those protesters were getting really close to the federal agents. They felt like they were being surrounded, and then, of course, they were all pepper sprayed, and then Angelica Guerrero was arrested. But again, we're like leaving out a lot of key details here, and I don't even know if they're going to talk about the knife.
Hear any, rights being read or anything like that.
Angelica's parents and community advocates said they spent hours trying to find her after Wednesday's arrest. They finally located her Thursday morning.
How ICE behaved and how they're behaving and how they're moving forward is unjust because it's not just our child. There's many other people that are being impacted by this.
Angelica said she was charged on Thursday with misdemeanors for interfering with federal agents and destruction of property. The senior counsel at the Partnership for Civil Justice.
Again, they're leaving out key details. Angelica is being charged with also slashing tires. That's what they mean by destruction of federal property. I looked this all up.
Justice Fund said federal agents violated multiple laws.
It's a First Amendment right to protest, and the sidewalk is a public space that's traditionally allocated for that. There is also a Fourth Amendment right that protects you from unreasonable searches, seizures, and violence.
Hey, let's just go ahead and go back to this footage real quick. Let's go ahead and back it up in real time. So these are protesters in the street. That person is talking about the sidewalk. Now, I don't have... Angelica here is on the street in this video, so I don't have the footage of where Angelica was before. I don't know if they were getting out of the way, but from the footage I'm seeing here, these protesters are in the middle of the street, and Angelica is also in the street. I'm just trying to give you guys the full report here. Regardless of what side you're on, this is what I'm seeing.
Violence by the police.
Not getting access to make phone calls was also a violation.
With a federal arrest, you do have a right to make 3 phone calls.
They're limiting my freedom of speech the same way that they want to limit all of our freedoms of speech.
We contacted ICE and have not received a response. Angelica is said to be back in court in September. For now, she said she was mandated to stay away from federal buildings.
We want to tell
And this is very common. Whenever a protester gets arrested by a detention center or federal building involving Homeland Security, they're always told, hey, make sure you don't come back. But to enforce this is very difficult, especially if you're wearing a headscarf, wearing a concealment over your face like goggles or a mask. A lot of times these protesters just come back anyway. If you're subscribed to my channel, we see this all the time with Portland protesters. But look, I'm not going to defend federal agents if they did break rules, such as not giving a phone call, things like that. I actually have not seen any report from Homeland Security. I'm a little surprised because this story happened on the same day as the other arrests, so Homeland Security has not really talked about this. I can't find an official report, but again, if Homeland Security or federal agents did break a protocol, that might be a case, but as far as the protesting aspect of things, I don't think, in my opinion, Angelica has really a lot to stand on, especially with the raw footage where you can see a mob of people or protesters in the middle of the street, really getting close to these federal agents and getting in the way of federal agents. Okay, so unfortunately, San Francisco is becoming a hotspot between protesters and federal agents within the locations of federal buildings. This video happened 2 days before Angelica and the other protester was arrested, and I think this clip speaks for itself. Unfortunately, this is happening and we don't like to see this.
What the f are you doing, bro? What the fuck are you doing?
Alright, tell someone in that van right now.
So this is a very big key detail a lot of people miss. When you go through the comment sections, a lot of people are very upset at these federal agents for engaging with these protesters. And look, if I didn't know the full context and I don't know exactly what's going on here, I would also be like, yo, why are these agents going after protesters? Here's the problem. In context, these federal agents are on their own, just like other federal agents in these sanctuary cities. So as a protester, you can really take advantage of the fact that no local police, they're not going to get in the way. They're not going to stop you from being in the middle of the street. That's going to be up to the federal agents. And what ends up happening is people will watch this video, not know the context, get mad at the federal agents and say, look, you see, they're going after protesters. And again, this happens a lot in sanctuary cities. Follow my series with Portland. It happens every single day over there. So let's continue. And again, these are protesters in the street getting in the way of federal operations. The law is very vague when it comes to obstruction or, getting in the way. If you are standing in front of a vehicle, that's obstruction. And again, if federal agents are going to be left on their own to take care of a situation, they're going to use whatever means necessary to move you out of the way. That's what we keep seeing time and time again with these videos. And again, I agree, sometimes it looks rather aggressive, but in context, this has been happening a lot. Almost every single day, federal agents are dealing with protesters who don't care. They will just get in your way, yell at you, they will put a bike in front of the vehicle, things like that. And again, you can even see at the very end of the clip. Let me get there for you real quick. They're just trying to move the bike. Hope you guys can see that. They're trying to move the bike out of the way. They're not even really going after the protester. At the last second, you can kind of see it. They're actually just trying to move the bike out of the way. So again, when you see a federal agent hitting a bicycle without the context, we don't know what happened before this, we don't know what happened after. We see this all the time, though. You can really put two and two together. Federal agents would be in massive trouble if they use unreasonable force or just going after protesters to go after protesters. They can't do that. There has to be a reasonable explanation as to why they're doing this, and obstruction is typically the #1 reason as to why protesters will get in trouble. Again, I cover this every single day. This is very common throughout the United States, but specifically in sanctuary cities. So the last thing I want to talk about is this. Where things also get a little confusing is that Homeland Security did not talk about Angelica in the way they're talking about the other protester, which means conservative media is also really focusing on what Homeland Security said, not about Angelica's case. The point I'm trying to make is a lot of times these cases, individual cases, will really slip through the cracks. So I'm trying to do my best to give you guys a non-biased perspective so you can have an informed opinion on what's going on here. But the main point of all of this is that there were two pretty serious incidents that happened in San Francisco, and only one is really being talked about in conservative media, and the other one is kind of being talked in liberal or left-leaning media. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for being here. God bless, and we'll see you all later. Everyone, please be safe, and I hope we can have some more peace in the country.